right. Welcome back, everyone, to the Townsend Institute podcast series. Gilbert and I are really excited to sit down with today's guest. She is not only a great colleague of ours here at Concordia University, Irvine, but we both have strong friendships with her as well. And it's been so much fun just reading more of the work that her and her colleagues have been doing over in Concordia School of Business. What did you think of some of that recent work, Gilbert, that we're going to hop into today?
Well, when I think about what she's talking about, it's kind of really relevant, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we all have kids that are we hope are going to go into the workforce someday, right? I mean, I don't want them sitting in my
Hopefully.
basement playing video games unless you get paid to play video games, and then maybe. But like,
Then
I know
maybe
this
that.
is this is really good. We're hiring or working with them, and so I think what we're talking about is more relevant now than ever. So, what about you, Ashley? What do you
And
think?
Well, and for all of our listeners out there, like you said, Gilbert, whether you're a parent, whether you are an entry level employee that's part of this Generation Z that we're going to be talking a little bit about
Mhm.
today, and you are gearing up for your first internship or maybe your first kind of big girl or big boy job in the real world. Or maybe you are a leader out there, a supervisor who is on the cusp of hiring some of these members of Generation Z, and you are just wondering what is the best way to onboard them, to mentor them, and to make them really find a fit in our organizational culture. So, Dr. Kellie Playter is going to be our guest here today. She is an associate professor in our School of Business and Economics. She has a doctoral degree in organizational leadership. And so she's really spanned the gamut in a lot of just organizational health, organizational culture type topics. So, it's going to be a fun one.
I can't wait.
Let's go ahead and welcome her in. Welcome, Kellie.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to hang out with you guys.
Well,
Well,
we're excited to have you on the podcast. We know you've been very busy over there in the School of Business here at Concordia, working with our students. You're just coming off the cusp of what is probably one of your busiest seasons.
mhm.
We know that you oversee the internship students there in the business department. Tell us a little bit about what that is like, helping mentor and lead students in their internships kind of at the end of their undergraduate degree.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been in the School of Business and Economics for the last 6 years, running internship and teaching in our management emphasis. I've been in higher education now for almost 18 years. But internship really is one of my favorite things to work with students on. It is often their first time really testing out these majors, these career paths that they think they want to go into. So, yeah, I work with upwards of about 100 students at a time during
Gosh.
different periods of their internship process, whether they're just looking for that initial internship or they're in the middle of it, or if they're wrapping it up and looking for full time employment. So, I kind of work with them in all different phases of that experience. And it's really rewarding, especially when they find their niche or their calling and they get a full-time job offer.
Well, and how many of them, I mean, go in there and they're like, "This is terrible," right? Like, I thought I wanted to do marketing, and
Yeah.
I'm just this isn't working for me. Didn't do you have very many of them that you have to kinda do a pivot?
Yeah, I always say it's like career shopping,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right? I said we don't always know exactly what we want to do for the rest of our lives the moment you enter college. So there is, a handful that test the waters and go, I don't think I like this part of my emphasis. And so I do try to educate them on different paths and options they can go into. And hey, guess what? There's always another internship out there we can
Yeah,
test out and see if you can find a better fit.
okay.
Well,
So you
and
don't go
much
with the
better
shaming.
figure
Yeah.
the shaming, no. Much better figuring it out at 21 than say 40 or 51 when it's sometimes more difficult to make that career pivot.
Mhm.
I mean, for them, it's really just, hey, let's look at how we can wrap up your college career. Or maybe, like you said, find a new internship that might be a little bit more up your alley. So, well, let's backtrack here a little bit because obviously you didn't just jump right in to work with internship students and teaching some different business classes. As you mentioned, you've been in higher ed for 18 years. Talk a little bit about what those first years of your career were like and how it kind of led you on this path to where you are now.
Yeah, so I have an undergraduate and a master's degree in communication studies, and then my PhD is in organizational leadership. But my first few years were spent teaching a lot of basic communication courses, so public speaking, small group communication, argumentation, debate. I've taught them all. And then I started finding more of my niche in workplace communication. So that was
Mm-hmm.
always kind of my area I was drawn to. I love the practical application of it. So I
Yeah.
started teaching more like business writing, writing for the workplace, business communication, organizational behavior. And I just really found my calling there.
Right.
I always feel like God just kept opening doors and leading me on a path. I originally was not in the school business. I worked in the school professional studies here for several years, and I did teach all of those courses as mentioned. But things change, things
Mm-hmm.
happen, and I was given this opportunity to switch over to school business and run internships, and it
Mm.
really was a very good fit for me. So that's kind of where I ended up where I am today. Um, like I said, it really is a valuable experience helping students sort through those initial career
Yeah.
exploration stages and just starting to figure out like how can I take all this education and
Mm-hmm.
and turn it into something I get paid to do.
Right.
So that's really kind of God just led me down that path, and I think I am exactly where I'm meant to be.
Absolutely. Well, you and your, I'm glad you've had a lot of different experiences. We're blessed to have you at Concordia doing a lot of different roles. But you and your colleague Dr. Burkhardt, you did a presentation a little while back, and it was called "From Classroom to Career: Helping Generation Z Thrive in the Evolving Workplace." Tell us a little bit about the impetus for wanting to write on that topic.
Yeah. So we've just seen a big disconnect between, especially Generation Z. These are our current college age students or those early in their careers in the workplace, and just how they're portrayed in the workplace, how
Mm.
they're perceived. And we've seen that disconnect from what we're seeing in classes. We see
Mm.
students who are amazing and brilliant and motivated, and you're seeing all this negative press on the other side, or you're
Mhm.
seeing the data come out that students are finding those first jobs, but within 6 months, they're having issues with professionalism, right? And employers are
Mm.
questioning their motives and their commitment. And so we were kind of like, where is this disconnect? And
Right.
so that's really what we wanted to explore, those stereotypes of them being lazy, unprofessional, dependent on technology, or unwilling to commit to employers long term,
Mm.
because we know this generation, while some of those things may be the case,
Right.
they're also really just motivated and excited. We have the
Yeah.
most entrepreneurial generation that we've ever seen. You ask these business students, how many of you want to own your own business one day? And almost every hand in the class shoots up, which
Wow.
is very exciting, but they do crave this flexibility. They want meaning in
Mhm.
their work. They do care about mental health, right? We see that trend continuing. It's rippled down all the way through elementary schools, right? They want professional development opportunities.
Mm.
They really want work life balance. And that's part of why they have that drive to be an entrepreneur.
Mm.
So that can be kind of challenging when they get into a really structured, rigid workplace and kind of balancing their expectations and the employer's expectations. So our goal was to really help. How do we, as educators, better prepare them while
Right.
they're at college
Mm-hmm.
for the workplace? But also,
Great
how do
point.
we help these employers better onboard them and better integrate them into their cultures? So we
Mm.
really wanted to explore kind of all of those trends and what's happening.
Wow, that's really interesting. And like you said, I can definitely see the disconnect just in hearing it around the university, but then also in the workplace. So, okay, well, give us a little bit then of the findings. So, we've got
Mhm.
listeners out there that maybe are coming from these, maybe they wouldn't consider it a rigid workplace, but the new 22-year-old does. What are some things that they can do or say to really help that individual acclimate to what the expectations are without kind of pushing them right back out the door?
Yeah. So there is a couple things as organizational leaders,
Yeah.
as those who are onboarding them. I think there might be a need for a little bit of adjustment, whether that's on perspective or actually practices. But
Mm.
some of it is being very authentic and clear in their communication,
Okay.
right? So being very upfront of what the job is, what it's going
Mhm.
to entail,
Yeah.
is very, very important. These students also want coaches and mentors. So partnering them with somebody who's
Mm.
more senior level, who has some experience, will greatly improve the chances of them staying long term.
I
And
see.
just help alleviate some of those initial jitters and questions and concerns that they have in those initial months at a new job, right?
Yeah.
If they have a go-to person, that definitely helps with their retention. I mentioned communication, but I think we have to be very clear on what channels are appropriate, how
Mhm.
you want communication to look. Right? If you're sitting here listening as an employer, um, if you don't want them texting you, be very upfront and clear with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Some companies do, though.
Yeah,
So I
right.
think it's really
Yeah.
hard to pigeonhole, like, here's the one right way to communicate. So I always just say ask a lot of questions in those initial days and weeks and just find out what is the best method. What are those boundaries that we are setting up? Do you not want an email after a certain time? Do you not care? But just being very clear with what that communication looks like and making sure that there's always open channels of communication for
Mm.
comments, questions, concerns. And then I think lastly, I would recommend always being very clear with the purpose and the why behind things. If you can
Mm.
give them a greater sense of you're doing this small project, but it's going to contribute to this
Yeah.
larger
Mhm.
initiative we're doing, they're so much more fired up and inspired to be part of that.
Yeah.
So I think just being very clear with the purpose piece.
That makes a lot of sense. That's a lot of what we've heard recently, Gilbert,
Yeah.
from some of our podcast guests is you've got to get them to buy into the mission and vision and just to know
Mhm.
that they're a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because they're wanting to know. They're spending a lot of time there every day,
Yeah.
with
Mhm.
this, and so they don't really know why, or they get kind of bored pretty quickly. So in the news, right, higher ed sometimes gets a bad rap with some naysayers that say, "Hey, it's not worth it. It's getting expensive," and some places are pretty expensive now. How do you respond? What do you do? To help the generations get ready.
I was just having this conversation with my father, but uh, I just said higher education isn't just about the diploma. It's not
Right.
just about I earned my degree in marketing. Now I'm going to get a marketing job and I'm good forever.
Mhm.
Right. It's this whole transformational time in their lives where, especially here at Concordia, we do have a lot of students that live on campus, right, and really get to immerse themselves in the college experience. Even if you are somebody listening who does attend remotely or commutes, it still can be very transformational, right? You are
Mhm.
learning uh, kind of management. You are learning how to, I mean, we just give a lot of freedom. We treat students as adults. And so
Mhm.
it's a very different transition from high school to college. And college acts as that bridge to career oftentimes.
Mhm.
We give them that, like I said, that transformational time. But
Right.
even on campuses, we have experiential learning opportunities. We're
Right.
bringing guest speakers in. We're making connections. We're helping them network. We're helping them learn how to act and be professional. We
Yeah.
hosted a few years ago an etiquette dinner for
Yeah.
students, right?
Yeah.
That's not something you get if you just jump right into a career.
Yeah.
Right.
You have a lot of mentorship opportunities, professors, community members. They want to come here and help students really gain the skills they're going to need for that long term success. And then I mentioned, I think we all know that a lot of times students come into college and change their major,
Mhm.
right? It's typically at least one or two times during their college experience. And I said, you don't know what you want to necessarily do for the rest of your life when you're 18 years old. So college often gives you that time to really kind of dabble in
Mhm.
multiple fields, to get to know practitioners, to get to know experts, and ask
Yeah.
questions so that
Right.
you can make a better educated pathway for yourself as you kind of go forward into career. So I think all of those things, it's hard to place a value on, right? We know higher education can be very expensive, but they're not only learning that textbook material, they're learning
Yeah.
communication skills, leadership, professional development skills. And we're giving them resources, support, and guidance to
Mhm.
get through it. So I do say it's much more about the entire experience
Right.
and that transition time to adulthood and young professional, than just about getting a diploma and walking out the door.
Oh man, without a doubt. I mean, if you were to quantify all the different experiences that you just mentioned, right? Attendance at an etiquette dinner and those different networking opportunities.
Mhm.
And then I know you mentioned you work with the students, as does our career center, on, making sure that you have a clean, attractive resume and LinkedIn profile and interview skills. I mean, the value attached to those things, are instrumentable, that's for sure. So Well, very good. I like to hear that. So I'm speaking now to the students that are in that Gen Z that might be listening to
Hmm.
our podcast here is, in addition to maybe say taking advantage of all of those experiences, are there
Yeah.
any other things they can be doing, maybe even outside of the classroom work to help kind of prepare them for a future internship or job? I mean, where can they go to look? What should they be reading, studying, following, listening to?
Yeah.
Hopefully the
Those are
Tips podcast, but what else?
Well, yeah, and I think we have a pretty big following in Gen Z. I think
We we sure
this is
do.
getting viral. Yeah.
There are so many things they can be doing.
Okay.
I think it is most important, like you said, to take advantage of as many opportunities on campus as you can. Even our Townsend students, right? The jumping on those town halls and soaking
Yeah.
up the rich experiences that you get to hear there. But on campus, like you said, we have so many opportunities, probably monthly, if not
Mhm.
more,
Yeah.
sometimes weekly, where we have somebody on campus that you really should be sitting and listening to, right? And asking questions of. But beyond that, I think you bring up a great point with LinkedIn.
Mhm.
We instill that in students, especially here in school business, freshman year. And we
Uh,
say, build it. And then when you do have those opportunities on campus, go and introduce yourself to that speaker and connect with them on there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Connect with your classmates, connect with your professors, build your network because we
Yes.
know that saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Hmm.
Right.
And I do track some data on where our students source their internships and jobs from. And number one is always a family or a friend. And
Oh,
sometimes that's a
interesting.
classmate, a teammate, right?
Yeah.
Professors. All of those were listed in the top three. And so if you are just building relationships, that's a big piece. So not just attending events, but taking it a step further and connecting with people.
Mhm.
Right? We talk about that in Townsend, connection being so important and relationships, but building those relationships because you will have a whole support system that is championing for you, that is recommending you for jobs,
Mhm.
that will help keep you in mind for things and send you opportunities if you
Yeah.
take additional advantage and make those connections.
I
Well,
love
and
that.
I know we're working with the OC Vibe, right? I mean, that's a
Yeah,
big one that we have a lot of
I have three
internship.
students interning for them right now.
Yeah. What are they doing
Wow.
over there? Are they like cleaning the ice or playing goalie or what do
Poor
they
No,
do?
Gilbert. He really wants to drive the Zamboni, Kelly. So if an
I
internship opportunity comes
yes,
yeah,
available, you just
I'm
got to
doing it.
pass it over to Gilbert.
I
we actually have a
I'm
couple
gonna
students. We'll see what we can do, Gilbert. But
okay
we
because
have
I'm there.
a couple students that worked in corporate sponsorships,
Okay.
so that's what they were doing. I have a student just starting up this coming week, I believe, who's going to work in event planning for them.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
helping with some of their behind the scenes events. Um, and then we have a student who just got a full time job with them in ticket sales, and he was a sports business major. So lots of cool opportunities out there that they're getting, and that's been really exciting. We had a whole group of students work with the Super Bowl last year.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
they got to go to the Super Bowl. They got to work in different areas for an entire week leading up to it and day of. So
Wow.
we have lots of great connections here at Concordia,
Well,
and
that's
ways that
amazing. Oh, I mean, Southern California, not, I mean, we're talking about the OC Vibe, which is just this up and coming entertainment and sports hub here in Orange County. But we are just 2 years away also from LA 28 with the Olympics. And so we start to think about the different sports slash business opportunities that await some of our students as well.
Yeah.
So lots of exciting things.
yeah, absolutely. And that's really what it's about is putting your name out there. I have students already telling me, "Can I do the Super Bowl next year?" And we're going to have a whole application process. So I'm like, "Yes, absolutely, but you're going to have to apply and see if you get selected because it's going to be more competitive." But I mean,
Absolutely.
any college campus similar to Concordia, we have all these opportunities, right? Obviously, I think Concordia is the best, but taking advantage of them,
Yeah, taking
getting to
advantage.
know people,
Yeah.
building those relationships, that's how you're gonna get the additional opportunities.
So Kelly, you know, we got a lot of students that want jobs, right? And they're out there. So they're applying to probably several. What do you think maybe are some traits or what bosses, or managers, what should they, act like or type or tell us a little bit about the ones that you found who are successful and people want to work for them rather than tell their friends go somewhere else.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's challenging right now, right? There's so many places online where you can just drop your resume and Students think that that's a great a great way to apply. But sometimes when you're just kind of cold calling almost or dropping your resume in random websites, they're not getting much feedback or getting
Mhm.
calls. So sometimes students are like, I applied to over 50 jobs and I've had no leads. So I always say my biggest piece of advice is try to find warm leads or hot leads,
Oh,
There we
right?
go.
So through those relationships you've
Yeah.
made, reach out and find somebody that works there, somebody that knows somebody that works there that you can possibly email, see if you can have a quick phone call with them, figure out what they're looking for before you even apply, and then maybe have a follow up conversation after so that you're actually getting looked at. That's a big tip. Another one is obviously we know the world of AI right now is
Yeah.
scanning a lot of resumes. So I always say make sure you utilize AI on your end, right? Have the resume look over, have AI look over your resume and the job
Mm.
description and see what kind of match you are. See if it can give you
Oh,
any suggestions for word choice that might be a better fit. So some of those pieces are really helpful as well so that you're actually getting pulled by
I
AI and
see.
then a human can look at your resume, right?
Yeah.
I have a fun story. A student recently really wanted this job with this big financial firm nearby, and he didn't know anybody that worked there. He looked through their LinkedIn, no mutual connections. So he just randomly found an employee that worked there, sent him a message, said, could I have 10 minutes of your time? Got a
Huh?
phone call, ended up really impressing him. The guy put a good word in for him. He ended up getting the internship. So
there you go.
sometimes you
Wow.
just need to take a leap of faith and be courageous and just connect with somebody, even if it's random, right? Even if it's
Yeah.
you just reaching out and saying, hey, can I have a few minutes of your time? I'm very interested in your company or your organization. What could I do to be a better applicant? Right. And many people are so willing to help.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think what that also shows, Kelly, too, is just like you have to put the legwork in,
Hmm.
right? You
Mhm.
have to, really go out there and seek out those connections, make those connections, foster those connections, and help them to breed that, the dream job or the whatever job isn't just going to fall into your lap necessarily. So I just like that you're talking about all the different ways. And thanks to technology, there are so many other ways to at least find that initial piece of connection, right? And then it's up to those
Absolutely.
relational skills to carry it through.
And
So,
yeah. And one other thing that I want to highlight is Kelly said the student did this. It wasn't their mom or
Yes.
dad that said, "Hey, I want you to
it's true.
meet Billy because he's a real fun kid," right? Because
Yeah.
my daughter got her first job being a pool lifeguard. But we didn't go. I mean, she had to email. She had to make this happen. I said, "If you want a job, I'll make sure you get there, but I'm not doing all this for you." And so I
Right.
think that's some of these skills for the first time as they're, doing this, that they get to do it. So parents, let them do it. They may not be the best, but you can help them and edit, but don't do it for them. So what do you
Don't do
think,
it
Kelly?
for them.
Is that, or do you recommend, hey,
Yeah.
parents do it all for them?
No, I don't. But I
Pack
don't think
their
it's bad to
lunch to
get.
the first
That's
day,
right.
pack their
Walk
lunch.
them in.
And it's funny because as much as our parents are very wise and they're great resources for connections,
Sure.
right? They're the ones that often help introduce you to people. You do need to take your own initiative. Sometimes parents haven't done a resume in 20 years and they might not
Right.
be aware of the trends or
Mhm.
what to say exactly. So, especially if they're not on the hiring side, right? If
Right.
that's not a role they've played. So, while we want them to be our number one go to,
Yeah.
it's good to use all your connections and resources to really maximize the opportunities.
That's really great. That's really great. Okay. Well, as we start to wrap up, I have another question. We've talked a little bit about the research that you and Dr. Burkhart have
Mhm.
done. And as we mentioned, I mean, it's crazy to think, but you now have like close to 2 decades of experience in this field of workplace communication, organizational behavior, all of that. So you've seen the trends, you've seen the rises and the dips, and you've seen the advent of this and, other fads just kind of slip away. What trends do you think are kind of here to stay versus what other ones do you think may not really be big deals for our students in the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I love that question. I think the trend that we're going to continue to see is the emphasis on soft skills,
Mhm.
right?
Love it.
Employers more than ever want students who can communicate effectively,
Yes.
right? Who have critical thinking skills, who can make ethical decisions, right? All of these are very important skills that are going to continue to be a trend. I don't care what industry you're in.
Yeah.
They matter in every job that I've come across. So showing your emotional intelligence, your leadership skills, all of those pieces are going to continue to be really, really important.
Yeah.
I do think AI is changing the landscape of business,
Yes.
but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I know we get fearful of it,
Yeah.
but it definitely has a lot of practical applications. It can save
Yeah.
us time. So I think leveraging them, knowing how to leverage them is going to become more crucial.
Right.
So utilizing them effectively. I always tell students, if you show that you can be replaced by AI, you will be. If you
Yeah.
show how it can enhance you or your job and help you be even more efficient, effective, and productive, then they're going to be very excited about that.
I love
So
it.
that is really
Well
what I'm
said.
saying. So learning AI, learning how it impacts your specific industry, your company, what are those trends? I think all of that's going to be really important. And then I would say, I think that students, I always tell them, always be a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
Don't think you're done with college and you are good to go. It's good to stay up on trends, to read articles related to your industry or profession, right? Show your employer if there's an opportunity to take a training or go to a conference that you're eager and willing to do that. So I think that's another big piece that I think is here to stay, but something we should continue to instill in each other and in our students to just continue to be lifelong learners
Yeah.
as well.
Love that.
Well, we talked about the three C's, right? Character, connection, competence here. And I was thinking about, what about the connection piece, like the remote, the hybrid? What are you seeing? What do students want? Do they want to just be able to be in their
Good question.
dorm to do this, or they want to go somewhere and see other people?
You know, it might be surprising, but students do not want a fully remote job.
Yeah.
All the students that do fully remote internships usually tell me that that was the one downside, is that they wish they could be in the
Yeah.
office, at least partially. So I will say the trend we're seeing with our current students and what the research shows is that people want the flexibility of hybrid, but they want to be able to still have that connection in the workplace.
Mm.
So most people ideally only want to work from home 1 or 2
Yeah.
days a week. And that
Interesting.
seems to be like the sweet spot for a lot of people and companies because they can have all those connection pieces, but they do give them that reprieve 1 day a week, possibly two to work from home and save on commute and gas time and things
Right.
like that.
And you only have so many
Yeah.
dress pants, right? I mean, so if
Yeah.
you're able to work at home, then you don't have to wear all the fancy pants. So
Less laundry to have to
lots,
do.
I mean, think about it. You're
Less
saving the
laundry.
environment. So
Well, there you
there you
go.
go.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's one way to look at it. Oh my goodness. Well, Kellie, we can't thank you enough for joining us here today. This has just been so eye-opening. Just both to Gilbert and I, and so much of what you've said has resonated with us, even at the graduate level. And it's just so nice to hear someone who's on the front lines interacting with these Gen Z students, and then so many students in our Townsend Institute that are then, like I said, kind of in charge of hiring and onboarding and mentoring these students. So that relationship we can build is just huge. So we thank you for, being an instructor here in our Townsend Institute, and of course the work you continue to do at Concordia. We can't let you go though
No.
without your takeaway tip. So what do you
All
have
right.
for us today?
I was thinking about this because, Gen Z, what advice do I want to instill? And I think it applies to everybody, but I think to stay curious and remain teachable is my biggest tip, right? The workplace is rapidly changing. There are new technologies and trends out there. And no one's going to have all the answers, but if you remain curious and teachable, then you're going to be somebody that employers want to hire.
Yes.
And at the same time, you're going to be the one that's learning and growing and getting new opportunities. So that would be my biggest tip. And I think I'm excited to see where this generation leads us.
I love it.
Maybe to
Well,
Mars.
thank you so much.
Maybe to Mars. So
Maybe
That could be
tomorrow.
next.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Kelly,
Yeah.
for hanging out with us today. Really appreciate it.
We'll
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you
it.
so much for having me.
See you later.
If you enjoy the Townsend Institute podcast series, head to our website at cui.edu/Townsend to find out more about the certificates, bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees offered through Concordia University, Irvine, with programs in mental health counseling, executive coaching and consulting, and organizational leadership. we have a variety of faith-based programs dedicated to helping you fulfill your academic and professional goals, all the while furthering your competence, character, and connection. Again, that's cui.edu/Townsend.